Let's cultivate our motivation. And see on the one hand that we are stuck in cyclic existence with our minds entrapped by ignorance and polluted karma, being pushed around by the waves of afflictions and karma. And on the other hand, having extraordinary good fortune to have the possibilities that our precious human life gives us. So this precious human life isn't just any human life. Because as we look around and check, there's actually very few people comparatively on this planet who have the opportunity to really delve into Dharma practice. Most of them are preoccupied with events in their lives, distracted by what's happening in the external world around them, or having inner resistance to listening to the Dharma, holding lots of wrong views and stubbornly, with a stubborn mind that can't take in new information. So this little period of time that we have now during this life to really learn and practice the Buddha's teachings is quite precious. So we want to really take advantage of it and not get distracted by emotional responses to everyday happenings, but instead have a long-term view about what's really important. And in that way aspire for awakening and aspire to work for the benefit of sentient beings, as well as to free ourselves and others from samsara. So with that kind of motivation, then let's share the Dharma today. Okay, so we were talking yesterday about the sevenfold cause and effect instructions, about how equanimity is the base for them, and then the first four are compared to the immeasurable love, and then the fifth one is immeasurable compassion. And then sixth and seventh are going towards immeasurable joy. Okay, so we talked yesterday about sentient beings being our parents, their kindness, and repaying that kindness. And then really having a deep affection for them and what is often called heartwarming love. So you can see already how doing these kinds of meditations, it's very challenging to our normal way of seeing sentient beings. We aren't used to looking at grasshoppers and thinking that they were once our mother, or looking at Donnie and thinking that he was once our mother. Yeah, but it's good to be challenged in this way because it's we have so many rigid ideas, of who somebody is. And as if that's all a person is, whereas, they're changing one life to the next. They're changing within each lifetime. And so those, making us think of sentient beings in their previous lives and ourselves in previous lives, it shakes that solid conception. Yeah. And it also shakes, if we have the emotional thing of I've been neglected and people don't care about me, or I've been abused, or other people have it better, then this kind of meditation also shakes that thing too, and makes us see actually, that we've been the recipient of a lot of kindness in this life and previous lives. And it opens our mind to really how much we depend on others and how much they have come through for us, instead of focusing on what we lack. Then going on to compassion, it has two principal aspects: a sense of closeness to others and a concern for their suffering. So seeing sentient beings as lovable through remembering their kindness creates a sense of intimacy, affection, and dearness in our hearts. And it's important that we have that sense of closeness to others, to have compassion. Yeah, otherwise, if we're always holding others at a distance, because somehow they're threatening or suspicious or whatever, then it's going to be difficult to actually train the mind in compassion for them. So we have to see them dear. And then not only that, but we have to look at what their condition is in samsara. So this is stretching us again, because we're used to looking at our condition, usually in this life, So first we have to develop the ability to look at our own condition beyond this life and understand what being in samsara is. And then look at others' condition and see that they're in the same boat. Yeah. So again, expanding how we look at others. Yeah. And our compassion is not just based on the ouch kind of suffering, of physical and mental pain that nobody likes, but it's really looking much deeper at what is the source of the physical and mental pain we experience. Why do we have this to start with? Why are we born in a body that gets old and sick and dies? Why are we born with a mind that is like an emotional volcano, an emotional yo-yo? Okay? So why do we have this condition to start with? Why are others in this condition to start with? So this is where Buddhism goes very deep, where other spiritual traditions, don't have this kind of analysis of what really is the root cause of the difficulty, and tracing that to ignorance, and from ignorance coming afflictions, and due to afflictions creating the polluted karma, and the polluted karma ripening in our being impelled to take one life after another in samsara. Okay? So meditating on the fact that sentient beings undergo the three kinds of dukkha, especially the dukkha of pervasive conditioning. That's the one I just described, being impelled by afflictions and karma to take rebirth again and again. So meditating on the fact that other sentient beings undergo this stimulates heartfelt concern for their suffering and for their and remember here, suffering means dukkha, it doesn't mean ouch. Okay? Bringing these two together, the feeling of fondness, our heartwarming love, and an awareness of their dukkha arouses genuine compassion for all beings. And it's for all beings because we've meditated on equanimity beforehand. and gotten our mind free of the attachment to friends, hostility to enemies, and apathy towards strangers. Okay? So the torment others undergo due to the two obscurations becomes unbearable to us, and the compassion arising from that produces the sixth of the 7 instructions, great resolve, assuming the responsibility to work for the welfare of sentient beings. Okay, so love and compassion are wishing sentient beings to be happy and to be free of suffering. And this great resolve is saying, I'm going to get involved. Okay, so it's the difference between standing on the edge of the swimming pool and watching somebody drown, saying, somebody jump in and save them, and jumping in yourself. Okay? So as somebody put it, we had this discussion in one of Geshe Sonorinsen's classes. And one person gave the analogy of when you have bacon and eggs for breakfast, the pig is involved. No, the chicken is involved, but the pig is committed. And they said this in the classroom at the library in Dharamsala, and everybody cracked up. But Geshe didn't understand it because he doesn't speak English. But we were just roaring with laughter. Yeah, so it's that's what the great resolve is. You're committed. You're involved. Yeah, you're the pig, not the chicken. Okay, so this primarily means liberating them from samsara, although benefiting them temporarily in samsara is also included. So the best thing we can do is help beings be liberated from cyclic existence. And next best is helping them temporarily with different problems and needs and so on that they have in samsara. The great resolve is the wholehearted commitment to act to bring about others' happiness and protect them from dukkha. These 6 causes lead to number 7, which is the effect, and bodhicitta. To transform great resolve into bodhicitta, we reflect that for sentient beings to be happy and free from suffering, they must create the appropriate causes for these. To teach them how to do this and guide them on the path, we must know through our own experience all the practices and paths to full awakening. We must also discern others' spiritual dispositions and tendencies and know the practices suitable for them. Yeah, so we not only need to know all the various Dharma practices that the Buddha taught, in all the traditions and in all the ways, but we also have to develop a sensitivity that knows what is suitable to teach who and when. Okay? And so this is where the 5 super knowledges come in, because if we have the divine eye, the divine ear, the ability to read others' minds, to see their previous lives and the karma that they've created, then we have so much more information on to use to really see, okay, who is ready to be taught and what are they ready to be taught and how do you guide them? And it's like being a doctor and knowing what medicine to give somebody. Okay? So developing that ability is important, not just knowing what the medicine is and what diseases the medicine treats, but what medicine to describe to give to what person. Yeah. Who do you give pills to because they can swallow pills? And who do you give liquid medicine to because they can't swallow the pills? Yeah. And who do you have to sugarcoat the medicine with so that they'll take it to start with? And who can you just give the medicine as it is because they're not, if it's bitter, that's okay with them. They're okay with taking it. Yeah, so there's a lot of sensitivity here that needs to be developed. We can't just go in like a bull in a China store, yeah, and start giving people spiritual advice here and there and the other place if we don't have either the knowledge of the different techniques or this kind of awareness of what they need. So we do the best we can until we develop the super knowledges, but also recognizing that our ability is limited and to take care of what we prescribe for other sentient beings to do. Can I tell a story? So one person wrote and was extremely enthusiastic about taking the Anagarika precepts. She has a family. She lives in another country, but she really wants to take the precepts and practice as well as she can. So one of our nuns said to her, well, take the 8 Mahayana precepts for a year first. Okay. Now, is this the advice that you give to somebody who's married with a family, who's new to the Dharma? I wonder what her husband's going to say about that. Yeah? Okay, so this is the kind of thing. It's like we need to slow down and what is suitable for somebody? And also somebody who's new to Dharma, is it suitable to say, take the 8 Mahayana precepts for a year when they haven't even taken them for one day yet? Okay, so, it's this kind of let's see what somebody really needs and what's skillful for leading them. Okay. Instead of everybody who drives up the driveway, we're waiting with our hair clippers. Yeah, we've done that with people before. And then we see it doesn't work, does it? It's not skillful. And this is why skill is definitely needed. Yeah. Okay. To fully develop these abilities necessitates attaining Buddhahood, the state in which all obscurations have been abandoned and all excellent qualities develop limitlessly. Bodhicitta is the motivation to do this. It is a primary mental consciousness informed by 2 aspirations. One is to benefit sentient beings, and the other is to attain full awakening in order to accomplish that. While the method for developing bodhicitta is not difficult to understand, it requires patience and continuous effort to actualize. Yeah? So His Holiness says, emptiness is difficult to understand, and it takes a long time to understand it. But after you understand it, then it doesn't take comparatively so much time to realize it. But bodhicitta is easy to understand, but it takes a long time to really transform the mind and generate it. After generating bodhicitta, we need to make it firm through repeated meditation and then live this magnificent motivation through practicing the perfections. No matter how long it takes and no matter what hardships we experience along the way, becoming a Buddha so that we may benefit sentient beings most effectively is worthwhile. Okay. I think you know the person in the picture across the page. Okay, for those who don't know, that's Venerable Wu Yin. And she's coming to the Abbey in January. Okay, so now the second method for generating bodhicitta, equalizing and exchanging self and others. So the first method came through Kamalashila and Atisha, and the second method started with Nagarjuna and then Shantideva. Okay, and again through Atisha too. The second method to cultivate bodhicitta has several steps: equalizing self and others, contemplating the disadvantages of self-centeredness and the benefits of cherishing others, exchanging self and others, and taking and giving. To equalize ourselves and others, we investigate our innate feeling of self-importance and realize there is no reason to justify it. What do you mean? There's lots of real reasons to justify my self-centeredness. I am me. Therefore, I am the most important one. Huh? That's what we say inside, isn't it? Yeah, we have no reason to justify it. Well, yeah, rationally, sure, there's no reason. But that's just intellectual stuff. Inside, I know I'm the most important one. Yeah. Okay. Others and ourselves are equal in wanting happiness and freedom from suffering. Both we and others deserve happiness and the cessation of suffering because we equally are sentient beings who have the Buddha nature. We are only one single individual, while other sentient beings are countless. It makes no sense to ignore their welfare while counteracting others' misery and bringing them happiness is beneficial. Okay? So, inside we feel there's a lot of good reasons why I'm most important. But actually, when we examine them, none of them hold water. Yeah, because just looking in this world, there's over 7 billion human beings. If we count the animals and the insects, how many insects do we have on this property? How many fish and different kind of wildlife are there in the depths of the oceans that take up most of the territory on planet Earth? And this is only one planet. I mean, there's all the rest of the universe, there's all the different realms, and we're one. And we believe in democracy, that the majority rules. So the two parties who are running for the most important one is me and countless sentient beings minus one. Who's going to win? And we don't have a screwy electoral college here. Who's going to win? Who's most important? Yeah, it's all the countless minus one. Okay? So, we have to really, begin to loosen this incredible thing we have. Yes, you're already shaking with a question. Yes. Yeah.
My favorite excuse for being self-centered is that if I don't look after my own self, nobody else will.
Oh yes, that's an excellent one. It comes in some religious text, actually, doesn't it? Come somewhere. I don't know, or maybe it's a self-help book.
It's kind of like you're responsible for your own awakening, so you better take care of that before you look out.
Yeah, so I'm forgetting about everybody else to accomplish my own awakening for their benefit. Right. Okay. So yes, of course we need to take care of ourselves. Otherwise, we become a disaster and then other people have to take care of us. So this whole thing of lowering our self-centeredness doesn't mean we neglect ourselves. We take care of ourselves, but so we can benefit sentient beings. Okay, usually we take care of ourselves because I want to be happy and I'm most important and I don't want to suffer and I. And here with Bodhicitta, you take care of yourself because you have to. Otherwise, other sentient beings are going to pull out their hair because they have to feed you, open wide, zoom, because you can't even do that for yourself. So we have to do that, but we do it with a different motivation. Okay? Yeah. So it's like, as we'll come to see here as we go talking through this, have you ever thought in the mandala offering that we make many times every day that you've already offered your body, possessions, friends and relatives, and virtue to the Buddha? Have you thought about that? Your computer is not your computer. You've offered it to the Buddha. Okay, your body is not your body. You don't own it. You've offered it to the Buddha. Okay, all the people you hold dear are not your dear ones. You've given them to the Buddha. Have you ever thought about that? Or do you just chant, this land adorned with flowers and or do you really think, that you're giving everything to the Buddha and it no longer is yours? Yeah.
I give it, but I forget that it's not mine anymore.
Right.
That little string on it.
Yes, it has a little string, doesn't it? I gave it to you, Buddha. Yeah. So what you do, the way to think is you've given it to the Buddha and you've accumulated the merit of giving it to the Buddha, but you have to use it, so you use it with a motivation that corresponds with what would be pleasing to the Buddha. And you use those things for actions that would create merit that would be pleasing to the Buddha. Yeah, so you don't say, okay, I gave the Buddha my computer, and I'll use it now to take notes and so forth, but this is for the purpose of learning the Dharma, so I can integrate the Dharma in my life and, remember the teachings I heard so I can practice them. But you don't use your computer to write love letters to somebody because that computer belongs to the Buddha. Yeah. And you want your love letters or your porn videos to be on the computer that belongs to the Buddha? No, you don't want that. So don't use the computer for that reason. Okay, use the computer for virtuous reasons. Okay, so this helps us really restrain our mind so that we use things accordingly. And I say this, it sounds funny, but somebody a few years ago donated a computer to us, and there were porn videos on it. You didn't hear about that? Oh, yeah. You missed that one? Oh, okay. Well, she and I knew about it. And yeah, so it was good we didn't spread the word, and we're not going to tell you who. But, we were shocked. Yeah. So you can imagine if you, yeah, you have to laugh, It's just so. Yeah. So we've offered things to the Buddha. We use them, but we have to use them in a virtuous way. Yeah. Okay. So same way when you do the taking and giving meditation, you've when you do the giving part, you've given everything to sentient beings. Yeah, at least you've imagined giving them, but again, there's the string attached. I was only pretending. It was just my imagination. But actually, if you feel I've given those things, then if you use them, you have to use them for the benefit of whoever you gave them to.
I'm not sure if this is semantics, but when we do a mandala offering, isn't that coming from a self-centered place? And I thought the point was to negate our self-grasping. Like, I feel like self-centeredness, despite ideals, is inescapable, but it's the self-grasping ignorance, grabbing at the self-centeredness that results in the problem.
Okay. They're both problems. Yeah. And this is one area where the dialogue between Buddhism and scientists, where there's some disagreement. Okay, because scientists say that we are hardwired to care for ourselves above everybody else. That's in our genes, it's in our amygdala, that is hardwired into our brain. From a Buddhist viewpoint, we don't hold that. We don't hold that people are innately or put it this way, that people are permanently self-centered. Yeah, because we may have lots of self-centeredness brought with us from previous lives. But if you follow these techniques of generating bodhicitta, it's actually possible to release that. Yeah, and cherish others as much as, if not more than, we cherish ourselves. That kind of mental training is actually possible. Yeah. And so that may be why it takes us, why bodhicitta takes so long to really generate in our hearts. Yeah?
I do believe that generosity can be trained and cultivated, but I meant more so from a physical perspective of I could give all my possessions to everybody in this room right now, but I'm still confined to a literal point of view that has 360 degrees around it. Like I am inherently physically self-centered.
It looks like that, yeah, but there's, I once kind of asked a similar question to one of my teachers, and actually Shantideva answers it in his book, and he says that our attachment to our body, our feeling that my body is me and my body is my perspective, that's basically just due to habit. Yeah? That it's just strong habit, that there's nothing, when you really look, there is nothing that makes this body either me or mine. And when you do some strong meditation on this, you begin to see the reasoning in the sense that you look at what this body is, and like you said, it's this physical thing. Okay? So, what are the causes of this physical thing? Well, we have the sperm and egg of our parents that gave us the genetic code or whatever it is. And then the rest is everything that we've eaten. Okay? That's basically what this body is. Started out with sperm and egg, and then a whole lot of food. Yeah? And the sperm and egg belong to our parents. Doesn't belong to us. Yeah? Belong to our parents. All the food belonged to the farmers. Or if you ate meat, it belonged to somebody else's body. So when we look at what constitutes this body, none of it actually came from us or belongs to us or is inherently ours or us. It's all just stuff that came through other sentient beings that is passing through because the body is changing in every nanosecond. You know, so imagine if you were able to have a very deep awareness of this and hold your concentration on it without getting distracted. Your whole way of relating to your body would be completely different. Yeah? Our mind would just be so much more relaxed, wouldn't it? Yeah?
I suppose what I was getting at initially along those lines is when you said that the personal body is not, we're not inherently it. It doesn't seem to me that the initial self-centeredness is the leading cause on the mistaken notion that we're inherently that body. It seems like the self-centeredness is necessary to conventional reality, while the self-grasping ignorance is the thing that consistently insists on the conventional reality, which necessarily includes self-centeredness to be an inherent reality existing on its own.
So, yeah, that's kind of right. The cause of the samsara is the ignorance, the self-grasping. Okay? But self-grasping and self-centeredness are really good friends. Yeah, they're very good friends, and they cooperate. Yeah. Much better than we cooperate with other living beings. They cooperate with each other, you know, to keep us firmly imprisoned. So it's the self-grasping that wants to have a body, because that self-grasping is clinging on to this I, you know, and clinging on to the aggregates as, you know, the basis of designation of the I. And then based on that, then the self-centeredness says, I'm the most important one. It's sometimes hard to differentiate them exactly because, as we've been discussing, there's the actual self-centeredness, which is what an arhat has, and then the very general way that we speak of self-centeredness, which includes all the afflictions.
I feel like I'm trying to convince this child of mine's self-centeredness that this guy, self-grasping ignorance, really isn't a good influence or a good friend.
Good. Yeah, continue to do that. Yeah? Continue to do that.
I just want to share watching my great-grandchildren as tots now, one a year and one 4 years. I can watch their first connections were to their family, to Mama first of all, and Papa. And so that connection was not themselves. That was their world. That was their wiring. And I was sent a picture the other day in which I realized it was one of those moving type things. And I don't know. Anyway, you could just see that he was becoming aware of himself. And this is at being cute purposefully, and the self was just arising. Therefore, the family connections, that is the connection to the other, really came first in the growing process. And the development of self became second. And of course, then it's easy to condition from there.
Yeah. There is an innate self-grasping that we're born with, but, that's why a baby cries when they're, hungry and whatever. But at first they realize that total dependence on others. And then they become aware that they can start manipulating the world. And then we keep manipulating, don't we? Yeah. But it's very helpful. I think this kind of way of viewing the body is extremely helpful because it releases so much worry and apprehension about our body, which is the cause of so much suffering. Because if you do the mindfulness of the body and it's just all this kind of gunk, and it's like, then, what is it I'm so attached to? And then you start to see there's nothing really here to be attached to at all. And then I think that makes dying a whole lot easier, because at the time of death, when we're attached to this body and we're worried about this body, and we're like this, clinging to this body, and yet there's no choice but to separate from it. Yeah, then there's going to be a lot of suffering. But if we can switch into, this is only a body, it's never really been mine to start with. No? And now the worms are going to eat it, or the birds are going to eat it, or, it's going to get transformed into something else. So there's nothing here for me to, latch onto and be so afraid of separating from. So this shakes a lot of our very deep conceptions, doesn't it? But that's good, because it's those deep conceptions that are causing us misery. Yeah. If it were simple things that were causing us to be reborn in samsara, it would be simple to get rid of them, and we would have already done it. Yeah. But it's these kind of things where we really have to challenge what our mind is seeing and how it's seeing things and what it's thinking. The disadvantages of self-centeredness, that's the next step after you've equalized self and others. The disadvantages of self-centeredness are many. Our self-centered attitude has brought all manner of undesirable consequences from beginningless samsara up to the present. Although we want to be happy, our self-preoccupation has led us to engage in unimaginable destructive karma, as well as create havoc in the lives of those around us. We have spent countless eons looking out for our own benefit at the expense of others, but haven't accomplished our own benefit or others' aims. And that's the thing, Like, we've been looking out for ourselves with this thing of, if I don't look out for myself, who will? We've done that. But we haven't even accomplished our own aims, let alone the aims of others. So self-centeredness aim allegedly is to bring us happiness. And it's been operating since beginningless time. And we still don't have any kind of lasting happiness. We've been totally fooled by this thought. Yeah, totally fooled by it. And whatever self-centeredness says, we bow down and we say, yes, of course, I will do as you say. I will do as directed to our self-centeredness. And anything that happens in our world that we don't like, we say, it's your fault that I'm miserable. And where's it gotten us? Where has it gotten us? Even we could blame the whole universe for our misery. So what? Yeah? Even if, we got the United States government and the UN and China and everybody else to agree that our misery was due to the rest of the universe. So what? Really? So what? What does that do for us? Yeah? That doesn't give us any happiness. It doesn't do anything for us. Yeah? So why are we so fixated on saying it's all outside and I have no responsibility for my situation? How we're thinking is totally ridiculous, isn't it? When you look at it that way, we're on the moon. Yeah. So this is why we have to think of the disadvantages of self-centeredness, because it totally, what's the word, flamboozles or flamboozles? Yeah, it totally flamboozles us. Yeah? Flummoxed. Yeah. It makes us cattywampus. Huh? Yeah. So, yeah. So we have spent countless eons looking out for our own benefit at the expense of others, but haven't accomplished our own benefit or others' benefit. Self-preoccupation fuels guilt, anxiety, and fear. Had we cherished others instead, we would certainly have become Buddhas long ago. Yeah? And so really take some time and see how the self-centeredness fuels the guilt, anxiety, and fear in you. Yeah? Just really look and see. And, every time I'm anxious, what is going on? What is my mind thinking about? Every time I'm afraid, what am I, what's the thought behind it? Every time I feel guilty, what's, the thought behind that? What's the story? Every single time. Yeah, it has to do with self-centeredness. It's all about me. Okay, when contemplating the faults of self-centeredness, it is important to remember that self-centeredness, here we go, Jazz, self-centeredness is not an inherent part of us, and that we are not bad because we are plagued by selfishness. Furthermore, being happy does not mean we are self-centered, or that for our compassion to be genuine, we must suffer. Practicing the path involves joyful effort and leads to the supreme bliss of full awakening. So don't think that to practice the path you have to suffer. Yeah, practicing the path makes us happy. Yeah. The Buddha is not the cause of our suffering. The Dharma is not the cause of our suffering. Yeah, it's the afflictions that are the cause of our suffering. All good comes from cherishing others. especially when they cherish me. Yeah. You should all listen to this about cherishing others, you know? Okay. The best way to achieve our own happiness is to benefit others. We live in a world where we depend on others simply to stay alive. If we consider only our own good and ignore others' plight, we will soon find ourselves surrounded by unhappy people. Their unhappiness will surely affect us. They will complain, resent our success, and try to steal our possessions. However, if we work for the benefit of others, those around us will be content and kind, and this will certainly make our own life more pleasant. Shall we wire this to all the members of Congress before they vote on this tax cut? Yeah? Cherishing others brings happiness in this and future lives. With a mind that genuinely cares about all others, we create constructive karma. As a result, we will die without fear or regret and secure a good rebirth. Realizations of the path will come easily because our mind has been made fertile with merit created by cherishing others. We will generate bodhicitta, progress through the bodhisattva path and grounds, and attain full awakening. Okay, so when you think about this, go through, and each kind of thing that we get from cherishing others, think about each one and understand how it works. Yeah, and then it's like it becomes so obvious the benefit that comes from cherishing others, and the fault, all the problems that come from just cherishing ourselves. Seeing that self-preoccupation leads to misery and cherishing others brings joy, we now exchange self and others. This entails changing the focal point of the wish to avoid suffering and have happiness from ourselves to others. Okay. Initially, we may think this is impossible because living beings are biologically programmed to look out for themselves first. Okay. We don't feel the pain and pleasure in another person's body, so of course we don't care about it as much as we do our own bodies. However, considering this mass of organic matter to be my body is a matter of ignorant habit. Nothing about this body is ours. The sperm, egg, and genes belong to our parents. The rest is the result of the food we have eaten, which came from the earth and was given to us by others. It is simply by habit that we consider this body mine. There is nothing in this body that is mine. Nothing. Yeah? From, your fingernail to some cell in the middle of your gut, none of it is mine. Examining the body, feelings, mind, and mental factors with mindfulness, we see there is no I or mine in them. They are simply material elements. There are simply material elements and moments of mind and mental factors. Thinking there is a real person who either is the aggregates or who owns them is a fabrication. Two main obstacles block our exchanging self and others. First, we think that ourselves and others are inherently separate. In fact, self and others are posited in mutual dependence on each other, similar to one side of the valley being called this side, independence on the other side being that side. Being this side and that side depend on where we stand. To others, what we call I, they regard as you. Exchanging self and others means imputing I on other people so that my happiness is most important, refers to other sentient beings' happiness. Okay? So this is why they say Shantideva's method is superior, or is for the sharp faculty people compared to the 7-point of cause and effect, because this involves, thinking about emptiness. Yeah, the other method doesn't involve that so much. But this, really brings home that the I is something that's merely designated and nothing more than that. Yeah. And I remember in Switzerland one time when Serkan Rinpoche was teaching this and Alex was translating, and Rinpoche was giving the example of this side of this side of the valley, and when you look out, today you can't see it, but there's that side of the valley. Okay, so we call it this side because we happen to be standing here, and that is that side. And when we look at it, it feels like this is this side and that is that side. But if we took a hike and stood over there and looked, this would become that side, and that side would become this side. Okay, so from where I'm standing right now, this is I, and all that is you. Okay, from where you're standing, that's I, and this is you. So which one is really I, and which one is really you? Because if and this is where Rinpoche got Alex so flummoxed when he was translating, because are you I or are you you? Because, when you look at it this way, it makes complete sense, doesn't it? I and you, it completely depends on your perspective. And if we're going to say, I am most important, this is where Shantideva plays a trick. He says, okay, say I am most important, but say I from the other person, from someone else's viewpoint. From all the countless -1 sentient beings' viewpoint, say I am most important. And look back at this one and say, you're second, And he has this beautiful meditation in there where you look back at your old self and you get arrogant over it, you get jealous over it, you criticize it, because I is now this one, looking at this one, who is you. Yeah, it's an incredible meditation. Yeah. But, this is where we really see, I is a mere designation. That's all. Yeah. There's nothing there that's I or mine. You had a question? I had a question. Yeah. No. Yeah. You.
Me, I.
Yeah.
I'm you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have
So
a
you
question.
have a question. Yeah, you have a question.
No, I have a question. And you're going to ask.
There's another perspective for holding others as most important than ourselves, and that is that without even one of them in our circle of concern, we will not be able to attain bodhicitta. So that makes them the most important thing really is to bring them into our circle of concern, because without them we cannot make it.
Yeah, without them, without each single grasshopper, without each single stingray, without each single whatever it is, if we leave one sentient being out of our compassion, then we've doomed ourselves, because we can't generate bodhicitta. Yeah. So that means we have to make peace with every single sentient being who's ever harmed us, and let go of whatever rancor, whatever guilt we have in relationship to anybody, because all of that only serves to harm our own noble intention to generate bodhicitta and become a Buddha.
If one lacks a conception of emptiness and maintains the goal of generating bodhicitta through the thought that I must be compassionate for others so that I can achieve bodhicitta, does that, which could potentially be a self-centered attitude, does that erode the merit that they go about?
If somebody's thinking, I want to attain bodhicitta, if they understand what bodhicitta is, then there's already some virtuous mind that's going on there. Okay. Does that answer your question? Yeah. I mean, if I say I want to generate bodhicitta, and I know that with bodhicitta I cherish others more than myself, then, I may be self-centered right now when I say that, but I say that with the utmost admiration from bodhicitta, knowing that I'm going to have to give up my self-centered perspective.
That answers my question.
Okay. But one thing people often get confused is they think anytime we desire something, it means there's attachment and self-centeredness. And that's incorrect. Yeah, because there are virtuous aspirations, and a virtuous aspiration for something is very difficult than being attached to it. Okay, so we need to have virtuous aspirations. Becoming a Buddha doesn't just mean saying, "Oh, I have no attachment." I'm just a bump on the log. I was going to say a log on the bump. A bump on the log. I have no attachment towards anything. I've withdrawn from the world. That's withdrawing into ignorance. Okay? That's not the meaning of non-attachment. Okay, so we need, and you look, the people who are genuine practitioners have all sorts of aspirations. And the bodhisattvas generate these aspirations that are totally impossible to fulfill. Yeah, because generating them expands your mind and elevates you so that you can become what you didn't think you could become. So lots of virtuous aspirations. That's what we need to have. Not just, I'm just little old me, in high school, I got C's, I got D's. I don't know anything. Nobody loves me. I'm incapable. That's just rubbish. That's self-centeredness. and profound laziness. That kind of putting ourselves down and discouraging ourselves is plain old laziness from a Buddhist perspective.
It's like a title of a book, Self-Centeredness and Profound Laziness.
I'm gonna pick it up. Destruction of
Yeah.
self-centeredness.
we had what was it, practical ethics and profound emptiness. So practical self-centeredness and profound laziness. Yeah. Okay. Where were we? Okay. The second obstacle to exchanging self and others is thinking that dispelling others' suffering is unnecessary because their suffering doesn't harm us. So why should I get involved? Why should I care? Okay, this too is based on seeing self and others as entirely separate, when in fact we depend on each other. It is similar to thinking there's no need to save money for my old age because that old person is a different person and his suffering doesn't harm me. Yeah? That person I'm going to become in my old age, different person. So actually, many people think that, why should I care about my old age? Yeah, why should I keep healthy? Why should I save money? Why should I do anything? Because that old person is a different person than me. Similar to, everybody else is a different person than me. So why should I care about them? Well, because we're interrelated. Yeah. It is also similar to our hand refusing to pull a thorn out of our foot because the foot's pain doesn't hurt the hand. Yeah? So step on a thorn sometime. And, I'm not saying do it deliberately. Yeah. But when next time you do, or you step on a nail, see, does your hand want to go and pull the nail out from the foot? And why should the hand do that? Because it's the stupid foot that stepped on the rusty nail. Why should the hand have to exert itself? Yeah. So how come the hand pulls out the nail? How come? Yeah. Your stomach's hungry. Yeah. How come your hand helps the stomach by putting food in the mouth? The stomach is other than the hand. Why should it help the stomach? Yeah? Yeah. So, because they're interrelated, aren't they? They depend on each other. And so in a similar way, we depend on other living beings. We can't live without them. So in the love songs, I can't live without you, it refers to all sentient beings. Yeah. Yeah, because we can't. So obviously we have to take care of them. Our actions affect the well-being of others, be that another individual or the old person we will become. Just as we create conditions for that old person's happiness, we should create the conditions for others' happiness. Just as the hand helps the foot without any expectation of appreciation because they are parts of the same body, we should help other living beings because we are all parts of the body of life. Shantideva says, through acquaintance has the thought of I arisen towards this impersonal body. So, in a similar way, why should it not arise towards other living beings? If we think I, on the basis of this impersonal body, which is simply a bunch of organic goo, why can't we think I on the basis of somebody else's body and wish that other living being happiness?
Somebody will jump in front of a car or a train to rescue somebody else without thinking.
Yeah.
And of course, in the military, you see that all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the given. So that sense is there in us.
It is.
If we don't stop and think about it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's stopping and thinking about it, the conceptual thought that creates the problems. But totally that sense is in us, to just help when we don't think. Yeah. When we just react. So we have to get out of our own way.